morning, everybody.
Good morning.
So I want to thank County Executive Chris Ronayne, my good friend, as well as my fellow representatives Bride Rose Sweeney and Phil Robinson for working together to organize this very important press conference this morning. I'd also like to thank Mayors Tim DeGeeter of the City of Parma, Mayor Marie Gallo of Parma Heights, Cleveland Mayor Justin Bibb, and all the council members from those cities who are working tirelessly for their residents. Our efforts working together helped our communities get back on their feet with no loss of life following the recent storms, and that's something we should all be proud of. I just wanted to mention that. As a homeowner myself, as well as a former middle school and high school teacher in the Brecksville-Broadview Heights City Schools for about 3 decades, a member of Parma City Council for 2 decades, and now state representative for Parma, Parma Heights, and West Park, like my colleagues with me today, I'm very concerned about rising property taxes in the state of Ohio and the burden it's placing on our families, particularly our residents who have fixed incomes. It breaks my heart when a resident calls my office to tell me they don't know how they're going to be able to stay in their home or apartment with all the rising costs. I recall when I was a little boy and my dad left us, my mom lost our house because she couldn't afford to pay the house payment and property taxes on her department store income. It's my experience watching my single mom struggle to keep food on the table and a roof over our head that informs why I went to Columbus to serve you. Unfortunately, over the years, the state has cut its commitment to help fund local services, as you just heard from Representative Robinson and Representative Bride Rose Sweeney, to the tune of tens of millions of dollars to the cities I serve alone. The state has also passed numerous unfunded mandates onto our local governments. These flawed policies have forced communities to go to the local taxpayers in the forms of levies to continue to fund services, including fire, police and EMS services, libraries, schools, parks, senior centers, not to mention addressing our sewers, water lines, and other infrastructure needs. I call this the man behind the curtain phenomenon. I've been talking about this for years. You see, Columbus can collect our taxes, cut our local government funds, and tell our local governments to do more without giving them the money to do it, with simply the flourish of a pen, giving the public the impression that our school districts and cities are not using their funds wisely because they have to go to the taxpayers to fund the services that you need, that you deserve, and that you expect. For instance, for too long our state government has required our local schools to rely heavily on local property taxes for funding. As a public school teacher, I'm well aware of this. There are many levy campaigns that we were asked to work on. I've always said that this scheme unfairly pits homeowners and senior citizens against our children, which is not a naturally adversarial relationship. Folks I speak to want to do their part to pay their fair share to help the next generation. But with rising costs, it's becoming way too difficult. In my short 20 months serving in the state legislature, I've been very vocal about the state providing more funding to our local communities and property tax relief for Ohio's residents, as well as speaking out against these unfunded mandates on our local governments, which the public in many cases is not even aware of. I have worked hard to forge effective relationships with colleagues on both sides of the aisle, just like Representative Sweeney and Representative Robinson, and we've made some strides, but clearly more needs to be done. In fact, Representative Sweeney, Robinson, and I support multiple proposals that would provide property relief to those we serve. For instance, House Bill 187, also known as the Homeowners Relief Act, would modify the way counties calculate property taxes by weighing property values for the past 3 years rather than just 1. This averaging would help protect homeowners from large increases as a result of property valuation adjustments occurring in just 1 year. This bill would also provide more local control over determining property valuations, but I won't get into the weeds on that. Other proposals include several bills that would expand the homestead exemption for our seniors. When Governor Strickland expanded the homestead exemption in 2007, and I think everybody but maybe a couple of you might remember that, it exempted $25,000 of a home value, and there was no income guidelines on that. Today, 17 years later, and I was just with the former governor this last week, what an honor it was to be with him. Now it simply exempts $26,200, and there's a very low income threshold for it, which exempts a lot of our seniors from being able to take advantage of it. On a positive note, the 3 of us voted to adjust the homestead to match annual inflation. However, Columbus needs to do more to keep up with the increase in property values that we're seeing. That's why we stand ready to work across the aisle, and you've heard it from all three of us today, to pass legislation that expands the homestead exemption to cover an additional 75,000 seniors and raises its value to $40,000, providing nearly $250 million in targeted relief for the most vulnerable. And that's a bill that was put forward by our good colleague, Representative Dan Troy, who represents part of Cuyahoga County and a portion of Lake County. We also support HB 263, which you may know is known as the 70/70 plan. This would freeze property taxes for residents age 70 and older who make less than $70,000. HB 645, which is known as the circuit breaker bill, that would provide a $1,000 rebate to homeowners and renters whose property taxes or rents, and I want to say that, or rents, because we hear from a lot of renters as well, and I hear from folks who say, you know, renters don't pay property taxes. I was a former renter. I know I pay property taxes. Anybody in the room that pays rent knows you pay property taxes and your rents are going up. And I've got many senior citizens in particular in my district calling me, telling me they don't know how they're going to afford their rent because their rents just went up at $150 a month. I mean, I've been on the phone in tears with some of these folks because they just don't know how they're going to do it. This would provide nearly $1 billion in relief. And as Representative Sweeney mentioned, do we have the money? It's a choice, and I love the way you put that. It is a choice. This is not a naturally occurring thing. It would provide $1 billion in relief for over 1.3 million middle-class homeowners and renters throughout the state of Ohio. That would be real relief for the people. I stand with my colleagues here today in remaining committed to working with both my Democratic and Republican colleagues at the State House to provide relief to our current and retired, hard-working Ohioans. We hear you, we care about you very much, and I want you to know that. And we're going to fight like hell for you to stay in your homes and stay in your apartments. I love you all. God bless.